No, I have a lot. Okay, today we're going to talk about 6 things that you must talk about before getting married. So number 1, faith. You're a Christian, and then all the suitors that are coming around you, maybe some don't go to church, they are traditional religious people, or they are Muslims, or they are from other religion, and you're considering it. The first question you should ask, maybe you say, oh, I'm not forcing you to come to my church. I would like to go to your church. Just marry me. I won't disturb you. And then you say, oh, the man is liberal. No. The Bible says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. The truth is, whether you like it or not, it's going to have a negative impact on your marriage. Yeah, because the truth is, marriage is work. Marriage is serious work. And prayer is one of the key instruments that you work with. And of course, the best form of prayer is the prayer of agreement. Because the Bible says, when 2 of you shall agree as touching anything already in my name, it shall be done unto you. Then your most trusted partner or supposed partner is of the other faith. It's already a complete minus for you. And then secondly, even if you're undermining that fact, okay, you just want to pray, he's going to find your action as constituting nuisance to him, because he does not, or she does not understand the context of your beliefs. So this is something that you must not compromise. Talk about it. There's nothing like, okay, he goes to church with me once in a while, so maybe he will change. No. Anybody that cannot change before the marriage will not change after the marriage. Remember, marriage don't change people. It only reveals them. So please talk about your faith. Consider it. It's very important. Marry someone that you share the same beliefs. Marry someone that have regard for the God that you have regard for. If not, the heart of a man is desperately wicked. It's only the God factor in a man that makes a difference in it. So talk about your faith and be sure that you are not unequally yoked.
And I also feel like even for believers together, there's still a need to talk about your faith, because you can both be Christians and yet you believe different things because of your background. So it's important to also talk about not just your religion, but the core practices of your faith, right. How you express your faith, how you like to worship God, and the beliefs that you hold that have to do with your faith. And also look at generally the person's beliefs, even in the faith, and see if you both align are on the same spiritual plane.
Very true.
Number 2, you should talk about roles. So, so it's important, right, for the man to know his role and the woman to know her role. And the roles, for me, I feel like it must not be cast in concrete that, oh, you are going to be doing this in this marriage and you are going to be doing this while you're going to be providing for me, I'm going to be cooking for you. It must not be cast in concrete. However, it still has to be discussed so that you know what each person is bringing to the table, what each person is bringing into the marriage, and you know what to expect. Because for instance, some people go into the marriage and because of their background, you see that some men do not help because they're not domesticated, so they do not help their wives at home. They feel like their job is to provide money, so once they are doing that, they're good. And the wife, on the other hand, feels like her role is to be a wife and to cook and to take care of the children. So even when she's earning her income, it is my money. So even when the man needs maybe support, sometimes she might be unwilling because that money is her money and it shouldn't be played with. So it's important to discuss roles in the marriage, and also discuss how you both can meet each other or support each other in the accomplishing of each other's roles, so that you go into marriage knowing what to expect from each other.
Yes, I like the fact that the roles are not casting.
No, they're not casting concrete.
Please, men, help your wife with the children. They are your children now.
Absolutely.
Yes, help them with your children. I do diapers for my children, so help with that. Sometimes I just hang around the kitchen where my wife, is cooking. Maybe I'm not necessarily doing anything, but my presence there can be a moral booster. So it's very important. And so just do the little you can. It goes a long way, reassuring.
Even when you don't do anything at all, your presence alone, makes her feel, okay, I'm not alone.
That's right.
I'm not alone. All right. So it's important to support each other in the accomplishing of your roles.
Good. Number 3, talk about extended family influence. Now, the truth is, on the day of the wedding, we are going to declare that whatsoever God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Before that time, you need to know that this man has a mother, has a father, has siblings. As a matter of fact, had a life with people feeling there before now you are coming in. The same with the woman. So talk about it. For instance, as we're going to get married now, we don't want any third party in our house. Maybe the first 1 year or the first 1 year, 6 months, because it's important for two of you to just have your week time, to get to bond, to get to know each other. You know why? Because sometimes there are things you can do for your wife freely when two of you are around. By the time your sibling is around, you start feeling somehow doing it because they may not understand.
Oh, because that was not the practice.
And that was not the practice in your home, so it is strange. And now this is your own home. You're trying to build it the way it suits you. But again, now this is an external influence, which is not supposed to be his family, but because they have a different orientation, that you look at, oh, this woman is using her brother. He's even the one cooking in the kitchen for me. So you need to get time to bond together and establish, that bond, together before you allow. Even if somebody is going to visit, maybe they can just come and go. So you talk about these things, have an understanding. Let it be that you and your partner, you are on one side. You're not the ones to be arguing with yourselves. When this is handled already, then it's already 90% soft.
And the most important thing is that agreement.
Yes.
And if both of you are okay also with having the presence of a family member visit, then it's absolutely okay. But it's something that has to be discussed. And the involvement in issues, who to talk to when there are issues. So should we call my mom, or should we call pastor, or should we call so those things? Yeah,
very important. Of course, for us, we've not had any cause to call anybody. So far, so good. But people, there are times when it's necessary, especially when there are physical abuses and maybe threat, or there are tendencies that could lead to violent behavior.
Yeah, even aside the abuse, I think that sometimes someone might need to hear from someone else that they respect.
Yes.
To be able to
be on guard.
Yeah. So, for instance, if there's like a disagreement and you know that there's a parent or an older person in the family that your partner respects, then it makes sense that you discuss it beforehand. Because if that's not discussed and you just call them and say, "Oh, this is what's happening," it might come across like, "Oh, why are you reporting me to this person?"
Exactly.
But if those kind of things are discussed, I think that there will be no issues, because you already agreed from the beginning that
this is the person to call.
If this is who to call when you need someone to correct me.
That's right.
Yeah. Number 4, children and parenting. It's important to talk about children. The number of children you want to have, what kind of parents you want to be. Those things are important. How you also want to raise your children. I think it's important to talk about it, because when you don't, you're going to bring the idea you have about parenting, your partner is going to bring the idea they have about parenting, and if that idea does not agree, then there will be issues. Because I've had a situation where I was trying to tell a particular lady about her children. I was trying to tell her about establishing a bedtime routine for them, and she said that the children always run to their father when she tells them to go to bed, and their father would let them stay away. And I was like, So apparently they are not in alignment. So for instance, in our own home, if daddy says go to bed, it's go to bed. Even if you run to mommy, you are going to bed.
That's right.
If mommy says no, even if you run to daddy, it's still a no. And except we both come together again and say, okay, maybe they should have it now. And then daddy, who earlier said no, is going to be the one to call them and say, okay, I know I said no earlier, but yes, I think that you can have it now. And that way, they're able to understand that both parents respect each other and both parents are in agreement. So it kind of really helps with raising children the right way. So all of this has to be talked about before getting into the marriage, so that you are both on the same, at par, on the same page.
Very important. Then you can talk about the number of children you want to have, and then how you want to space them. So just think about what works for you. If it's 3 years, you want to space. Be intentional about it, because if you agree earlier on and you're unable to, and the children are coming faster and you're not quite prepared, it may bring some form of pressure in the process. So what should bring joy to the family can bring pressure. I know people manage pressure differently. If you have a husband who does not know how to manage pressure, it becomes reactional, and then it will overwhelm the woman who is already being overwhelmed with too many activities already, and that may cause little problems that shouldn't be. So talk about number of children, very important.
Yeah.
All right, so number 5, finance. This is one very important topic that you must discuss before marriage. As a matter of fact, one of the major challenge for a few years in ministry, the people I've had privilege to talk with, most people have issues when it comes to finances. And when you look at it very critically, you will see that it's not far-fetched from the fact that they didn't discuss it when they were courting. I used to be amazed. Most times it's 80% of men already they are naturally fashioned that, okay, when a man has, it's normal to just give to his family. But you have a little fraction of men who will have, and then they have negative orientation. They don't want their wife to know what they're earning. Don't let your wife know everything about you and that kind of stuff. And then I'm wondering, the Bible says 2 shall become 1. So 2 have become 1, and the 2 of them were naked and they were not ashamed. So what are you hiding from your wife? There shouldn't be any such thing. So talk about your finance. Is there a saving formula? Do you want to operate a joint account? Do you want to have your separate account? But in your separate account, make sure you're saving this and all of that. So all of these things should be discussed. Like in our case, we did not open a joint account, but there's no dime that comes to me that my wife is not aware. And another thing that we agreed that is working for us is that anytime we want to give to her mother, we make sure that it comes through me. Anytime we want to give to my mother, it comes through her. This is intentional, so that my mom is not feeling like it's only my son that is giving me, and her mom is not feeling it's only my daughter. Let them know that it's coming from the family and it's an agreement. So all of these things, you can just talk about them intentionally. And again, finally, on this note, women, please, there's nothing like my money. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but realistically, let me be honest with you. There are good men. Just know the man you're married. You're a good man who loves you and who will take care of all your needs if he has the capacity. And maybe for a moment, you're the one that God has blessed a little more that they shouldn't even be. If there's understanding, there's nothing like the woman is earning more than the man, because the 2 of them have become 1. But there's nothing like there's a need in the house and she has money and she's saying, this one is my money, I'm hiding it somewhere. No, there's nothing like that. So please, 2 have become 1. The Bible, as a matter of fact, it said 2 are better than 1, for they have better reward for their labor. So you see that 1 shall chase 1,000, 2 shall chase 10,000. That is multiplier effect. It means what one person was struggling with, now that you're 2, you're coupled, you put combined effort and you achieve it with ease.
Okay, number 6, talk about sex. Yes, it's important to talk about sex. Now, one of my biggest surprises in marriage was sex. Using myself as an example, because it was not a topic to be talked about. It was a road not to be traveled on. There is this general avoidance culture when it comes to sex. Like, nobody wants to even talk about the word. Nobody wants to even say the word. Yet, people are doing it. And even unmarried people are doing it. Much more than even married couples. So it's important to talk about sex, because when you talk about sex before you get married, it primes your mind. It helps you understand the whole idea of sex. This is assuming you do not know. And then even if you have an idea or you know what all of it entails, you still need to understand it from the perspective of your partner, right? So everybody probably would have individual preferences, and you also need to know where the person is when it comes to sex. So for some people, they have zero knowledge, and I've heard stories of couples who got married and after the wedding they were frustrated because guy has no clue, babe has no clue, and both get married, and for days nothing is happening, just because they don't know what to do. And another thing is also the fact that when you eventually get married and then you begin to have sex, you begin to discover, that a lot of the things that you probably heard about sex were not really true, are not really what it is, or the pictures that have been painted in movies, in other places, they're not really the ideal. Those are fantasies, and when you base your expectation on those fantasies, you get into marriage and you might get caught up. Like you just get disappointed because that's not really what you see. So it's important to talk about sex before you get married. Talk about where you are. Tell your partner if, of course, you have no idea. Get to know about your partner's sexual history as well, and also what you are learning about sex currently, because it's important to know. It's important to read books. It's important to ask questions, and when you ask these questions, or you read these books, or you read up on the internet, share your new knowledge with your partner, not behind closed doors in order to experiment, but over a conversation where you are both trying to learn, and in an atmosphere that is a learning atmosphere, and not a provocative atmosphere to provoke anything to happen, because you are not supposed to do sex before marriage. You are supposed to just know what it is and expect that it's going to happen after your wedding. All right, so if it's definitely going to happen, then you need some knowledge, you need some information about it, and also to know what to do in certain cases. For instance, a lot of ladies suffer terrible pain, especially if they were virgins before they got married. They will suffer terrible pains during sex, and because nothing has ever been said, not even during premarital counseling. Nobody really wants to talk about it, especially in church, and that's really bad, because at that stage where people are about to get married, it becomes a topic to talk about because it's an inevitable thing.
Yes.
Alright, so at that stage, we should not all be hush-hush about it anymore. We should talk about it. We should talk about those things that may happen, like experiencing pain during sex, and what can be done.
Right.
Solutions that exist, right? So that you don't get in and then what you imagine, the fantasy you had in your head is not it, and then you immediately get disappointed and maybe even start being uninterested in sex. Yes, or withdrawn about sex. So talk about sex.
Very important. But remember, don't indulge. Yes, like she said. Yes, don't indulge in sex before marriage. It's not advised. It's not encouraged. It's totally, discouraged, because
it's not discouraged.
Yes,
it's sin.
Yeah, it's a sin.
The Bible says marriage
it's
is
honorable,
the bed undefiled.
And the truth is, the testimony you will only discover in marriage. And then I will recommend a book by Bishop Dag Heward-Mills, The Modern Marriage. Yes,
He talks about everything.
Yes, every couple that is preparing for marriage should get that book. If you get, we got the book. Yes, we have it even in our bookshelf right now. So it has explicit with all images and everything, and that's a man of God. So it has the Christian content. So you like she already said, read it in a place that is learning, inspiring, not provocative, not behind closed doors. So maybe you're in a park, read it together, understand these things, and then, of course, know your partner's sexual history, like she said. Maybe somebody was raped in her prime, and then she has phobia when it comes to talk about these things, and then help the person to heal. To heal, and then win their trust over to you. Whether it's the man, the guy, of course, most of the times, it's the ladies that are victims of rape, but of course there are guys that have been raped too. Yes, but it's just that is not very common. So talk about it, and then help your partner to heal, to believe, separate you from every other man, and know that, this man is different from that person who hurts me.
This one is going to protect
this one is protecting me. This is my safe space. By the time they can trust you like that, I mean, it's going to be a wonderful experience. But it is important to talk about sex, because it is, like she said, an inevitable and inescapable and a core part of your marriage. Most marriages, in fact, two major things that can break a marriage is easily: number one, money; number two, sex. These are things. So you need to talk about that. Very important. Remain the same.